Buongiorno e benvenuti al penultimo giorno di Milano Wine Week. Siamo nella meravigliosa tensostruttura di Palazzo Bovara, dove abbiamo ospitato tantissimi eventi, ma oggi c'è un evento particolarmente importante per me, perché il mio amico Greg Lambrecht oggi ci racconterà una creazione che credo cambierà in maniera permanente, così come ha già fatto con la prima versione e le varie versioni che poi si sono succedute di Coravin. Cambierà il modo di consumare le bollicine. Abbiamo parlato tante volte di questo progetto. Ricordo che l'anno scorso durante il Wine Generation Forum avevamo Greg collegato dalla California. Io pressavo in ogni modo per farmi dare l'anteprima sul fatto che sarebbe uscito il Coravin Sparkling, ma non c'è stato modo di poterlo fare, e quindi abbiamo la possibilità oggi finalmente di poter vedere questo oggetto che, ripeto, oltre ad essere esteticamente straordinario, è frutto di una ricerca di tanti anni e che darà la possibilità a tutti di poter vivere il mondo della bollicina in una maniera diversa, perché la possibilità di poter conservare una bottiglia di bollicina aperta cambia le prospettive in tanti versi, cambia le prospettive del mondo della ristorazione e della somministrazione in maniera molto importante, dando la possibilità di avere delle carte al calice di bolla che non si sono mai viste per ovvi motivi, dà la possibilità anche a noi appassionati di poter degustare più referenze e poterle conservare, avendo la possibilità anche, insomma, di incrementare la nostra cultura sul mondo della bolla che si sta espandendo a vista d'occhio sempre di più. Thank you, Greg, for joining us. I'm really honored to have you here.
Thank you, Federico. I really appreciate being here in Milan and being able to travel again and be social again.
Be social again. This is the main part. And Greg, I leave you the presentation. I'm happy that many guests joined us today. And of course, this presentation is also available on our digital platform, as you know, digitalwineweek.it, where many people from all around the world are connecting for this special event. So I'll leave it a stage.
So no pressure on the blind tasting. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My Italian is terrible, so you're getting my English. I speak Japanese as well, so if anyone speaks Japanese, we can switch to that language. I'm extremely happy to be here. I'm the inventor of Coravin, the developer of Coravin. I'm a lover of wine, and I have a quick presentation that I would like to show if I can, that goes over the background of the company briefly. And then the pandemic was a period of time where myself and my engineering staff were all trapped and not able to go anywhere. And so it was the most productive, inventive time of our history. And so we have launched 4 new products into the pandemic. And I get to share those products, those new ideas with you today. Federico mentioned that I was from California. The very first glass of wine that I tasted, I drank illegally. I was 16 years old. In my country, you have to be 21, but I had a beard, so I looked older. My friends brought me to Napa Valley, to this winemaker. This is Peju Winery in California. That is Tony Peju. This is the moment that I told him that he served me my first glass of wine when I was 16. And of course, it was illegal, so he was angry. And you can see him, this is literally that moment where he was upset. But ever since that first taste of wine, I fell in love, absolute love. That it did not taste like a grape at all shocked me. And then I discovered the incredible variety that is available. That there are 140,000 different wines that are bottled every year, and that they change in the bottle as they get older. Meant that I could explore wine for the rest of my life, and there was no way I could even fully understand just Italy. So it's an everlong lifetime fascination, but it is not my job. My real work, I'm a physicist and an engineer. I'm not a doctor, so no surgery today. but I do invent new medical therapies. So I started inventing new medical therapies when I was 23. I invent therapeutic surgical instruments as well as medical implants. I still have a medical implant company, Intrinsic Therapeutics. We work in spine surgery, but I have worked all over the body. One of the first products that I worked on, luckily, was this one. Notice it has a needle. So it was designed to deliver chemotherapeutic agents to the bloodstream over the course of someone's therapy. So I made another needle very similar to this that worked on an implant that was under the skin. And we would access that implant with a needle over the course of many months. So I got very good at making needles that didn't do damage to things. Please.
Mi permetto di riassumere un po' i punti salienti. Dunque Greg, diciamo, l'amore per il vino nasce ai 16 anni, quando illegalmente assaggia il primo calice in Napa. Da lì una passione senza fine, decide di voler esplorare il mondo del vino per poterne cogliere tutte le sfaccettature. E come diceva, non è un sommelier, non è un dottore, però arriva dal settore medico, inventore e ingegnere medico. Una delle prime invenzioni è stato appunto quest'ago molto sottile per pazienti che dovevano essere sottoposti a chemioterapie, quindi praticamente per degli impianti sotto pelle, aghi molto molto sottili, e da lì nasce la sua esperienza appunto con gli aghi. E adesso capirete come poi è passata al vino.
Thank you. Martello is our head man for Italy, so just without him I don't exist here, which is great. What you're seeing on the other side of the image is the very first prototype of Coravin. It was named by my 3-year-old son. He actually called it Wine Mosquito, and it stayed Wine Mosquito for more than 10 years. So this is the first day I ever used a Coravin to pour wine from a bottle. And that first night, I tasted 5 different wines side by side. What I wanted to be able to do was drink whatever wine I owned in whatever quantity I wanted, whenever I wanted, without having to think about when I was going to drink from that bottle again. I didn't want to have to drink the one bottle because it had been opened. They sell you wine in 750 milliliters. 750 milliliters makes sense sometimes, maybe when friends are over or when you and the spouse like the same wine, but it doesn't make sense all of the time. I wanted to have just a perfect glass of wine or 2 different glasses of wine on a Tuesday and not have to drink the rest of those bottles. I wanted to have a glass of sparkling, a glass of white, a glass of red, maybe a dessert wine, whenever I wanted, without having to think about, oh no, I've opened these bottles and eventually they're going to go bad. So that is what led to the first idea of Coravin. I remember sitting in my kitchen with a bottle of wine and the needle I used for chemotherapy, thinking there has to be a way. So that started my adventure, coming from the outside. Now, since launch in 2013, Coravin is in 60 different countries. We've served over 200 million glasses of wine around the world. It's an incredible experience to see how quickly Coravin has been adopted in a field that is 8,000 years old. We've been drinking wine for 8,000 years. We've been drinking it from a bottle with a cork in it for 400 years. And yet with Coravin in 10 years, or less, 8 years, we've spread all over the world to serve fine wines by the glass.
Dunque nei primi anni 2000 Greg nella sua cucina, con in mano un ago appunto per la chemioterapia e nell'altra mano una bottiglia, li guarda entrambi e dice ci deve essere un modo per poter degustare qualsiasi vino senza dover compromettere quello che resta all'interno della bottiglia. Le bottiglie sono da 750 ml, a lui andava nella stessa sera di fare un viaggio, passare da 4 diverse regioni, ed è così che decide di applicare il principio appunto del passaggio di un ago attraverso il sughero, sfruttandone poi l'elasticità. Nasce così un prodotto che, nato nel classico garage americano, adesso ha conquistato più di 60 paesi ed ha cambiato la forma, sta cambiando la forma di bere vino. questa è un po' la nostra presenza a livello mondiale, con qualche altra bandierina che secondo me dovrebbe essere aggiunta. We're just saying that there are some other flags that I think we should add. And
I know, yeah, it's true. I think we are in Iceland. And Greenland, I'm sorry. I think we're in Greenland now. So we're lucky. I invented Coravin for myself at home, originally. I spent 11 years testing it and developing it. It's the thing that I did in the evening or on weekends to try to make it better and better and better. And I thought it might have use for other wine lovers like me. But it's been amazing to see the ways in which Coravin is being used. So we're used by wineries around the world to check their own wines and to serve them to their guests. We are used by restaurants around the world to serve fine wine by the glass. We're used by wine critics, Robert Parker. We were used, there's one guy who poured more than 14,000 different wines in a year using Coravin. It's James Suckling in Hong Kong. We're used by educators. We're used by students who are studying wine to taste wines. I was just with Masters of Wine in London a couple days ago, and a Master of Wine told me I would never have passed without Coravin. And then we are used by wine lovers at home. These are some of my favorite pictures of blind tasting that we've done around the world. There's the picture in the upper left, that was Burgundy. Their wines, they had accessed them a year ago. We're all together blind tasting like you're going to be doing today to validate that it works. I've never been more nervous in my life than in Burgundy with their wines and tasting them a year later. And there, of course, is Ceretto, who's been our partner here in Italy since the beginning. Since even before the beginning. So it's been an extraordinary experience to see how it's used.
Quindi un prodotto nato in casa, nato per il suo uso personale, che poi si è evoluto praticamente nel mondo del vino. Produttori lo utilizzano e l'hanno utilizzato per testare l'evoluzione dei propri vini, ma per servire e offrire i vini in cantina. La ristorazione ovviamente ne ha fatto praticamente uno strumento di uso quotidiano. I grandi personaggi come James Suckling piuttosto che Robert Parker hanno ad oggi, penso, versato più di 14.000 etichette con il Coravin, e queste sono alcune delle sue foto preferite dei vari blind tasting che abbiamo fatto nel mondo, appunto per comunque convincere quella parte importante del mondo del vino del funzionamento del prodotto.
So now I'd love to speak about the different products that we have here today. Coravin has gone from the one thing that used a needle to a much broader variety of products during the pandemic. When we say that Coravin works, what we mean is the last glass should be just as good as the first when you drink it. Blind tasting, you should not be able to tell. So with our sparkling wine system, we're saying at least 2 weeks. I've actually tested it out over a month, and the last glass should be as good as the first. We also have this new pivot, which I'll demonstrate, and then our timeless, where the wine lasts for years. The longest blind tasting I've done now is 18 years since first pouring.
Quindi questa è una delle nostre slide preferite adesso, nella quale praticamente mostriamo quello che è la preservazione che i nostri prodotti possono offrire. Quindi si parte dallo sparkling di recentissimo lancio, per poi passare al pivot e per arrivare poi alla gamma classica, il Coravin, che un po' tutti conoscono, che in realtà offre una preservazione senza tempo. Adesso passeremo praticamente alla dimostrazione, così avrete anche modo di vedere il funzionamento dei nostri prodotti.
All right, my friends are going to start serving you some glasses while I do some demonstrations. So you may be familiar with the original Coravin. It uses a capsule of argon gas to push the wine out of the bottle so that air never touches the wine while you're pouring. This is the latest version of Coravin. We always try to make it faster, easier, and more fun to use. I'll show you the more fun in just a second. The faster now is we have no clamp to interact with. You simply take the system, press it down on the bottle, tip sideways, press the trigger, gas goes in, let go, and wine comes out. So we've tried to make it faster and easier than it used to be by removing the use of the clamp. And that's it. So that's Coravin Classic. And this wine can go back in the cellar. You can keep it for years. Just before the pandemic, we also launched the Coravin aerator, which is the fun part. Some wines, when you drink them young, they can be very tannic. And so there's the possibility to aerate them, to try to open them up, make them more round. I was in Australia, and a man asked me, how do I decant my wine now that I'm pouring by the glass? And he did not want to hear, well, just wait a little while. He wanted me to make something. So we designed the Coravin aerator. It fits on any of the Coravin models. And what it does, aeration is a formula of surface area and time. If you don't want to wait, you increase the surface area. And so because we pour with pressure, we can do something cool. We can break the wine up into a shower that increases the surface area by a factor of 1,000. So it really opens up the wine as if it had been sitting in your glass for an hour. So after the class, if you'd like to try the wine side by side, feel free. So that's the Coravin aerator. Then, also go ahead if you want to.
Dunque, spero non ci sia bisogno di una particolare traduzione sull'utilizzo del Coravin classico. Ovviamente nel corso degli anni abbiamo cercato di rendere il tutto più semplice e più divertente. Il Coravin utilizza delle capsule di argon per praticamente spingere il vino fuori e rimpiazzarne il contenuto all'interno della bottiglia. Gas inerte che quindi non altera la qualità del vino e praticamente all'estrarre il prodotto, così come vi dicevo prima, si utilizza la stessa elasticità del sughero affinché lo stesso si ricompatti, impedendo appunto il contatto tra ossigeno e vino. Quindi il vino all'interno della bottiglia segue la sua evoluzione naturale, così come il produttore l'ha pensato. Come diceva Greg, abbiamo cercato di renderlo anche divertente, per esempio con la creazione dell'areatore Coravin. L'areatore Coravin risolve un po' il problema dell'ossigenazione del vino, permettendo un incremento di 1000 volte appunto del contatto tra vino e ossigeno, e offre praticamente durante lo stesso servizio una ossigenazione pari ad 1 ora e mezza. Quindi o lasciare il calice 1 ora e mezza decantare o utilizzare il nostro areatore è praticamente lo stesso risultato.
So again, I was back in Australia, and I was with a restaurateur at a place called The Stunned Mullet, which is a wonderful name of a restaurant just north of Sydney. And the restaurateur said, I use Coravin for my wine by the glass program. I like it, but, and this is a long list, he said, it's too slow. If you don't know how to use it, you can break it. If you don't know how to use it, you waste gas. It doesn't work with plastic corks. It doesn't work with Vinalock. I want it to work with everything. I want it to take no training. I want it to be faster, and I want it to be more efficient. And I don't need the wine to last 5 years. It's like, I'm going to sell the wine within a month. I don't need it to last 5 years. Sure.
Before it's too much. Quindi... No, dunque, questa è una storia molto divertente di come è nato il Pivot, un prodotto che abbiamo lanciato praticamente durante la pandemia nel 2020. Greg, durante un viaggio in Australia con uno dei produttori, praticamente ha ricevuto un feedback relativo al prodotto originale. Questo produttore gli ha detto chiaramente: ho bisogno di un prodotto più rapido, più semplice da utilizzare, e soprattutto a me non interessa, ha affermato questo produttore, che il vino duri 5 anni. Ho bisogno di qualcosa che sia immediato, rapido e che arrivi più o meno a una preservazione di un mese. Ed è così che sull'aereo di ritorno Greg ha realizzato il pivot, o almeno ideato.
My most inventive times are stuck on an airplane coming back from Australia, flying for 24 hours. So you're stuck with nothing to do. So this is Coravin Pivot. It's the first product we make that pours from a bottle you open. So you open the bottle, whatever the closure, Vinalock, plastic cork, DM. You place our stopper inside the bottle immediately, so without pouring. The stopper fits in any bottle. It's infinitely reusable. Just wash it between bottles. Very simple thing, inexpensive. And then you've got the pivot. So we no longer use a needle, we use a big tube, which gives us an advantage. There's a small cap at the top, open like so. There is a valve on the inside of this cap. You place this big tube through the valve, Actually, I'll show you the label. Why not? Like so. Tip it sideways, press, and you can see argon is going in and wine is coming out. You can see how much faster it pours. So you can pour a glass in a few seconds, then take out the pivot, close the wine, put it back into your cellar or wine fridge, and you should be able to blind taste the last glass 1 month later, and it should be just as good as the first. So that's Coravin Pivot. So we launched this also into the pandemic, but now we're seeing it being used in restaurants because they can pour tableside, they can pour in seconds, and the wine is still preserved.
Quindi il pivot, per chi non l'avesse visto prima, è il primo prodotto della famiglia Coravin che si distacca un po' dalla filosofia del versare senza stappare. La bottiglia la si stappa, si sostituisce il sughero con uno stopper di nostra invenzione che comunque isola la bottiglia, il contenuto dall'esterno. Dopodiché il funzionamento è molto simile al Coravin, però a differenza del Coravin Timeless, invece del lago abbiamo una vera e propria cannula con un doppio canale, quindi mentre entra il gas, quindi sempre argon, sempre la stessa capsula, servizio immediato, perché mentre entra il gas allo stesso tempo esce il vino. È un prodotto che si inserisce, avete visto il funzionamento senza bisogno di traduzione. Quello che ha rivoluzionato il pivot è soprattutto il settore della ristorazione. Perché? Perché è un prodotto che non ha bisogno di training particolari, a differenza del Coravin, soprattutto con i problemi che ci sono oggi nella ristorazione, mancanza di personale, turnover di personale elevato. Il pivot è facilissimo da utilizzare, non c'è il rischio di rompere l'ago, di sprecare troppo gas, è un prodotto molto intuitivo e sta avendo tantissimo successo nella ristorazione.
And then we launched one more thing. We know that the trade has gone through one of the hardest periods in its history. Restaurants and wine bars around the world were shut for a year. And we wanted to do whatever we could to help them come out of the pandemic. And so what we did was we launched our first trade-specific line of products. So the normal Coravin works off of an argon capsule that looks like this. We launched, during the pandemic, a trade capsule, which you can see is longer. It has 30% more gas. It'll pour 30% more wine for the same cost for the trade. So we just made the capsule cup longer, and that way you can pour up to 25 glasses of wine with one capsule using the pivot. So the cost per glass serving in a restaurant decreases very dramatically. It's less than 30 euro cents for a full glass of wine using the Coravin Pro. So that's the second to last thing that we launched during the pandemic is the Pro line.
Quindi sempre durante la pandemia non ci siamo fermati e abbiamo introdotto un'ulteriore innovazione. Per venire incontro al mondo della ristorazione altamente e fortemente danneggiato dalla pandemia stessa, quello che abbiamo fatto è stato realizzare una capsula Pro e ovviamente dei device Pro, cioè praticamente ci sono delle nuove capsule che allo stesso prezzo sono solo per i professionisti e contengono il 30% di gas in più, abbattendo praticamente del 30% il costo del servizio al calice. Parliamo di un'incidenza adesso per calice di meno di 30 centesimi praticamente, anche perché il pivot stesso massimizza l'efficacia del gas, la doppia cannula praticamente evita qualsiasi tipo di spreco, quindi anche lì lo abbiamo reso più accessibile, più facile da utilizzare e soprattutto praticamente a costo zero.
And now the fun one. So as soon as I launched Coravin in 2013, I immediately started to get a response like this from the press. First person was Victoria Moore in London. She said, "Does it work with champagne? Does it work with sparkling wine?" And I would say, "No. Should it?" And I realized that there was a whole new world of wines that needed to be able to be served by the glass. So in 2013, I started to work. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. I spent the first 4 years working in the wrong direction, trying to put a needle through the cork at an angle. I have a patent on this, going sideways, and then the gas and the fluid were flowing through the needle and expanding, and bubbles were going everywhere. So I tried for 4 years, going the wrong direction by putting a needle through the cork. And then one of my engineers said, "You're being stupid. Carbon dioxide is heavier even than argon." He said the wine inside is protecting itself from oxidation by releasing carbon dioxide, even when you're pouring. All we need to do is close the bottle and protect the perlage. It sounded easy, but it took us another 4 years. We need to be able to close any bottle. As you know, there is a broad variety of different types of bottles. Krug has a very narrow neck. And Veuve Clicquot has quite a wide neck. And there are other ones. Beresh does fermentation in bottle, and they changed their bottle design. And Gosset designed a bottle in the 1700s that has this really big flange. So we wanted a stopper that fit on everything. We also wanted one that did not let oxygen in or any CO2 out. That's a very important, sounds simple. Most of the wine preservation systems that you will see, in fact, probably all of them, have chosen to use silicon rubber to seal the bottle. Silicon rubber is very good at sealing against a liquid. It is very bad at sealing against oxygen. Silicon rubber is the most transparent elastic material we've ever found, most transparent to oxygen. So we tested with it and it failed, and so we moved to a new material that I use in medicine. So luckily we know materials in medicine that don't allow oxygen through or carbon dioxide through. And then we wanted it to be easy to use. So this is a Coravin sparkling system. It consists of a stopper. We use a gas which I don't see, it's right here. We use carbon dioxide gas. We tried argon, we tried mixtures of gases, but in reality, carbon dioxide in the liquid only cares about carbon dioxide. It doesn't care about any other gas. So we use very, very pure carbon dioxide to replace the perlage, and this charger system to restore the perlage. So it works like this. This bottle's under pressure. We've been drinking it over the last couple of days. And so I could open this and release all the pressure simply by lifting up, but that would make a big pop. If you want a big pop, go ahead and do that. If you're in a restaurant and you don't want a big pop, we built in a way of releasing the pressure slowly by simply tilting, like so. And then you can open, pour yourself a glass, and when you're done, simply reseal just like a normal stopper. At the end of service, you want to repressurize. So this was another challenge. Prosecco is at 3 bar, or Satin is at 3 bar. Some champagnes are at 7 bar in pressure. So we had to find a way that we could restore the perlage so you couldn't tell in a blind tasting the difference between a bottle that had been poured down to the last glass from a low pressure bottle as well as a high pressure bottle. That's what this little green indicator tells you. So when I press down, all I have to do is press down on top. You'll see that goes to red. And then eventually it'll turn to green, and you know you're done. So that's it. You can't hold it for too long. It'll go to the pressure that we set it and stop. So that's it. That's all it takes. We tune the pressure to about 4.2 bar. 4.2 bar wound up being the perfect pressure to preserve a high perlage wine at 7 bar and a low perlage wine at 3 bar. So there's some physics involved why 4.2 worked, but it works very, very well. Each capsule of gas will preserve up to 7 bottles of sparkling wine. It's about €1 per bottle to preserve the bottle. Sorry.
It's okay. Quindi 2013 lanciamo il primo prodotto, il primo Coravin originale. La prima domanda che gli fanno è: funziona anche per le bolle? Quindi dal 2013 inizia a lavorare su un progetto per preservare appunto le bollicine, lo champagne e qualsiasi vino frizzante. I primi 4 anni, tra virgolette, li spreca a lavorare su un progetto che si rivela fallimentare, nel senso che ha cercato in tutti i modi di utilizzare la stessa tecnologia del Coravin, quindi inserire un ago trasversalmente all'interno del sughero e praticamente far fluire lo champagne. Il tutto è risultato in esplosioni di bolle e c'è anche un brevetto su questo progetto, fino a che uno dei suoi ingegneri del team gli ha detto non funzionerà mai. Non funzionerà mai perché l'anidride carbonica è già più pesante dell'ossigeno e anche dell'argon stesso. Quindi in realtà noi non dobbiamo servire lo champagne, l'unica cosa che ci interessa è proteggere il perlage, ok? Quindi in realtà stappare la bottiglia nel momento in cui la stappi, anche mentre versi l'anidride carbonica all'interno, protegge il liquido. Quindi hanno poi cambiato progetto e abbiamo cominciato a lavorare su questa chiusura che permettesse di appunto isolare il contenuto interno dall'esterno. Ovviamente è stata lì ci sono voluti anni perché ogni bottiglia ha un collo diverso. Immaginiamo il Krug che ha un collo molto particolare, molto stretto, quindi praticamente questo stopper, che adesso è universale, ha alle spalle anni e anni di test con i soliti produttori che Greg visitava, appunto ha testato su migliaia di bottiglie. Dopodiché, come avete visto, molto semplice da usare. Quello che noi facciamo con il nostro device è ripristinare il livello di anidride carbonica all'interno della bottiglia, permettendo appunto una conservazione del perlage e quindi delle bolle, della frizzantezza, degli aromi nel tempo.
So you can store this wine on its side, in the fridge, or store it upright. I think the wines you're tasting were stored upright. It looks big, but it's only 1 centimeter taller than a closed bottle of champagne. So it fits into normal wine fridges without a problem. The only cleaning you need to do is to rinse this underwater when you're done. That's it. So again, it's easy to use. Tilt, open all the way, pour, reseal, and at the end of service, you don't have to charge in between every pour. So if you were at a restaurant, you can simply pour and then close it again, and then go to the next and pour. It's at the end of service that you want to repressurize. Just press down. You'll see it turn green, and you're done. You'll know you're out of gas in here when this is red. If that stays red, you need to replace the gas. So that's it. Let's see if it works.
Come dicevamo, ci teniamo a precisare che come appunto l'anidride carbonica protegge il contenuto all'interno della bottiglia, non è necessario ripressurizzare dopo ogni calice, basta farlo, ecco, nel caso della ristorazione a fine servizio, quando la bottiglia non cioè quando siamo sicuri di non dover versare più dalla stessa bottiglia. Il nostro manometro, quindi quell'indicatore da verde passa a rosso e da rosso di nuovo a verde nel momento in cui la bottiglia è pressurizzata. Quando termina l'anidride carbonica all'interno delle capsule, perché ovviamente utilizziamo delle capsule di CO2, l'indicatore rimarrà rosso fisso. Okay? Tutto analogico, è un vero e proprio piccolo manometro.
All right, so this is how I developed it. I did this type of blind tasting with hundreds and hundreds of different sparkling wines. You wonder what I did during the pandemic? I was drinking a lot of champagne, and a lot of Franciacorta, and a lot of Prosecco, and a lot of New Zealand and Tasmanian sparkling wines. It was a fun part of the pandemic, although I started drinking at 12, so I probably need a doctor. You have in front of you 3 glasses of the same wine. It's all Veuve Clicquot, a Pinot Noir dominant, wonderful, well-known sparkling wine. At least one of these glasses, and maybe 2 of them, are from a bottle that was first opened around a week ago. The rest of the glasses are filled from a bottle that was just opened. Your job is to find the glass or glasses you think are from the bottle that was first poured around a week ago. That probably takes the most translation. This is a classic pyramid or triangle test. 1 in 6 of you will get it right at random. There are 25 of you, so it's about 4 or 5 people should guess it correctly at random. At least 1 and as many as 2 are from a bottle that was poured around a week ago. The rest are from a bottle that was just opened. You have to decide whether it was 1 glass or 2, and then which ones. That's the fun, and you get to drink 3 glasses of Veuve Clicquot. So I'm going to do the same. testing up front.
Dunque, non so se è stato chiaro per tutti, il vostro compito adesso qual è? Avete di fronte a voi 3 calici. Di questi 3 calici, 1 o 2 provengono da una bottiglia che è stata stappata più di una settimana fa. E praticamente la vostra sfida è indovinare quali sono o qual è questo calice. A livello statistico 1 su 6, ovviamente avendo 3 scelte, 1 su 6 darà la risposta esatta. Però siamo curiosi di mettervi alla prova e di testare anche il nostro device. Greg farà lo stesso.
Please don't talk to each other. I would like independent answers only. You're going into my database, so I need real science. By the way, we always get nervous at moments like this. Even though I tested this over and over and over and over again, I'm always nervous. Maybe another 4 or 5 minutes, max.
I see some confused faces. I know many of the people here, so I'm curious to see
So
the answer.
my tradition with Coravin is before launch to show Coravin to the winemakers first, before we launch, because we use our product on theirs. And out of a sign of respect, and to make sure that they know first what Coravin is, I like to tour the wine regions to show them the various Coravin products so that the first time they see it is with me, not in a restaurant or a distributor. And because of the pandemic, I could not do that. I was stuck in the United States. I could not come to Italy. I could not go to France. I could not go to Spain. Certainly couldn't go to Australia. So we did send some over to Moet Hennessy, who are our partners, by the way. So we're very lucky to have 2 fantastic partners here in Italy. Moet Hennessy, obviously Veuve Clicquot, Dom Perignon, Krug, Ruinart, and Moet Chandon, as well as Ceretto. So we sent some, and apparently they sent them to Veuve Clicquot. I'll tell you the results of their test in a sec. So I'm going to move on toward the answers. So I normally do a hands-up poll, and I'll ask. But before I do that, I'd like to ask 2 questions. Are any of the glasses in front of you unservable to a guest or a friend?
Quindi procederemo con una votazione per alzata di mano, però prima Greg vuole farvi due domande. La prima è: c'è tra questi 3 calici uno che non servireste? C'è un prodotto che vi sembra inservibile?
Unservable? Are any of the wines in front of you oxidized or flat, as if they had been open for a week or two?
Qualcuno dei vini di
Or
fronte a
day.
voi lo
Day or
trovate
two.
ossidato o piatto, flat, penso si traduca piatto, quindi che abbia perso un po' di aroma.
If the answer is no, then we have already won. If they're all servable, that is the goal. So no matter what the result of the testing, that would be a very positive thing if they are all servable. So that is the primary goal. Now we go into the math involved in what is happening.
Quindi praticamente Greg ha detto che se la risposta è stata no a entrambe le domande, perlomeno quasi per tutti, abbiamo, tra virgolette, già vinto, nel senso che il prodotto si può servire, quindi la preservazione ha funzionato.
But let's go find out. So I will ask you to raise your hand if you think glass number 1, the one on the left, is from a bottle that was Coravin a week ago or more. Anyone, glass number 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Glass number 2, who thinks was served from a bottle that was Coravin a week ago? Glass number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Who thinks glass number 3 is from a bottle that was first Coravin a week ago? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. You guys are pretty good. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you sure? Both glasses number 1 and 2 are from a bottle that was Coravin. The first one, glass number 1, was Coravin 10 days ago. First one was poured first 10 days ago. Second one was poured 5 days ago. And the third one was poured and opened just today. How many people guessed both glasses 1 and 2? Can you raise your hand if you guessed 1 and 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we're just 1 over random. Random would be 5. So well done. Well done, guys. So that is Coravin Sparkling. By the way, Didier at Veuve Clicquot also got it wrong. He said, you said it works only 2 weeks? We're out 3 weeks, and I can't tell the difference. We also tested with Krug. They also could not tell. I was just at Ruinart. They could not tell with their own wines. And Dom Perignon was so frustrated that it was working so well, they gave it to Ruinart to test themselves. So that is how we became the official wine preservation system for all of Moet Hennessy, for their sparkling wines. So you are not alone if you got that wrong. And it's totally okay that you got it wrong. It's probably good for the rest of us that you can't tell the difference. I could not tell the difference between these, but we know this.
Quindi complimenti a tutti, complimenti a chi è riuscito a indovinare i calici appunto che erano stati già aperti, complimenti anche a chi non ci è riuscito. Come diceva Greg, siamo partner ufficiale del gruppo Moet Hennessy proprio perché li abbiamo convinti esattamente con un blind tasting, anzi addirittura il Dom Perignon è stato talmente frustrato del fatto che funzionasse così bene che ha poi mandato il prodotto anche a Ruinart per poterlo testare e dimostrare appunto il funzionamento. Come dicevamo, a livello statistico ci si arriva sempre ovviamente su 3 calici e speriamo che vi abbia impressionato positivamente e che siate rimasti contenti della dimostrazione.
So in my testing, it has been like this. We say 2 weeks for only one reason. We always want to make sure that no one is disappointed. And so during the pandemic, I wrote emails to sommeliers around the world and to winemakers around the world and to wine critics and said, what is the hardest sparkling wine to preserve? And some people said, red grapes, Blanc de Noir, much harder than Blanc de Blanc. Or they would say natural wine producer. Or they would say low dosage. And so I tested all of these different things. And then, of course, unfortunately, I wrote to Jancis Robinson. And Jancis Robinson wrote back, pet nat. No one can preserve pet nat. And it turns out Jancis Robinson is right. So pet nat is the reason why we say 2 weeks, because that is the longest we can preserve Petulant Natural, the beer of wine. However, with champagne, I'm now testing 2 months, 3 months. I don't know how far it goes as of yet. So I'm really encouraged by the results with champagne, with Franciacorta, anything made in method champenoise, as well as Prosecco. Prosecco is very stable as well.
Dunque, giusto per concludere, il nostro prodotto è stato lanciato con un claim che affermava appunto una preservazione di almeno 2 settimane. In realtà questo è perché c'è un prodotto specifico che dopo 2 settimane, tra le migliaia di prodotti di bollicine testate, sembrava cambiare leggermente. Dopo ulteriori studi, ripeto, è stato lanciato il 1° di settembre questo prodotto, dopo ulteriori studi adesso il nostro claim è cambiato ad almeno 1 mese e realmente non conosciamo ancora le potenzialità della preservazione di questo prodotto. Greg arriva da un live tasting, blind tasting in televisione, 1 month blind tasting.
1 month,
right?
yeah, Master of Wine.
Con un Master of Wine in diretta e il Master of Wine non ha indovinato appunto qual era la bottiglia stappata da almeno 1 mese. Quindi è un prodotto che si adatta a qualsiasi tipo di bolla e speriamo di poter allungare anche il nostro claim a chissà 1, 2, 3.
That was scary. Although sitting next to the winemaker Ruinar after their test was scary too. So that's Coravin Sparkling. I'm extremely happy to be free again to travel. One of the things that I love the most about wine is how social it is. One of the Burgundy producers in the beginning of one of our tests was sitting like this with other Burgundy producers, and he said, Greg, you asked us to be quiet. I can't be quiet. He said, wine is the most social beverage. And he is right. And we've been denied that social part of this beverage for the last 1.5 years. So for me to be here in Italy and blind tasting with you guys, I feel like a plant that has moved back into the sun. So thank you for taking part in this. I would love to answer any of your questions if you guys have. Feel free to come up and use any of our systems. I'm happy to show you. We are only successful if we wind up being used. And restaurants and winemakers are the people who show our product to the consumer. So we're extremely happy to work with you in whatever way we can through our great partners here in Italy. But we want to make sure you're as comfortable using it. And if you have any, most importantly, so this fits on any bottle, from a half bottle to a magnum, any bottle. If you find a bottle it does not fit on, my email is greg@coravin.com. Take a picture and send it to me. And I will send you a case of champagne in response. So please find a bottle it does not fit on.
Quindi questa la traduco ed è vero, Greg è così, ha detto se doveste mai trovare una bottiglia al quale il nostro stopper non si adatta, la mail è greg@coravin.com. Mandategli una foto e vi arriverà una cassa di champagne e vi sfida, ovviamente bottiglia di champagne in questo senso. Comunque di nuovo grazie a tutti, se avete domande o volete provare i prodotti siamo qui a vostra completa disposizione.
Thank you guys. Do you guys mind if I take a quick picture of you guys? Please raise a glass. I will raise one too afterwards. So a giant cheers to everyone that can't join us today. Cheers to everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cheers. Always use good wine. Cheers, my friend. Thank you for having me here. We actually work, we don't know, feel free if you have to take off. This is such a universal stopper. It doesn't fit on water, but it does fit on beer. So if you want to preserve beer with your stopper, you can. I do at home, glass beer bottles. It will actually fit on most glass beer bottles. Strange, but true. So lambic beers, Belgian beers. It's like pet nat. You only have 2 weeks. Thank you all. Yeah. Cheers, everyone.